And now here we are on a football Friday, and you're right with these spreads and everything, and looking at these games and just talking about them again last night, and we'll talk about them again today. I mean, there's the Ravens, the Eagles, the Lions, and the Chiefs are just four really good teams. And when you're talking about these teams, and the Ravens are the only one of these four teams that I'm talking about that are going on the road. Like the Bills would be the fifth of these teams in my eyes, just simply because they have Josh Allen. He is Superman. Nobody is saying that he's not. But these other teams, I feel like, are just a little bit better in terms of overall balance when it comes to running the ball, playing defense, the size of their offensive line, their head coach, their quarterback. I mean, they all have everything that you want. And then I just think the Bills are a little bit notch below. But that doesn't mean they can't win on Sunday night on CBS. They certainly can win, and they may win just simply because playing in that building is not the easiest place to play.
Yeah, I mean, and it just feels like every year these games in Buffalo believes it's themselves. And this is why I would have, if I were a Buffalo Bills fan, this is going to sound nuts, and you tell me if you think I'm way off base on this. If I were a Buffalo Bills fan, I think I'd rather have this game in Baltimore, because I really do think that when things don't go great in places that haven't won and the fan base is like, what's going to go wrong now? If the Ravens go up 7-0 in that game, the sphincter shrinkage happens. You start feeling it in the building. I actually think the Bills have played faster and looser. Obviously, last week they rolled. But, I mean, now we're talking about playing some big boys. I mean, Josh Allen, that was at Arrowhead. And just these fan bases. And I'm a fan of teams that are just like that. That when you're there and you're positive when you walk in, but when that first negative thing happens, everybody's like, oh no, here we go. Oh God, again. I was there for the 4 Super Bowl losses. I was there for this. I was there. I can't go through another one of these things. So I think it is absolutely imperative for the Buffalo Bills to get off to a good start, because I think that if the Ravens, let's say they get the ball or they go 3 and out, the Bills, if they get the ball first and it's 7-0 and Lamar's running around like crazy, and then this little flick of the wrist to Mark Andrews, and then the place is quiet, then good night. Then the Ravens are moving on.
That's a real thing, because as a player, you feel it. You feel it from your home fans. Like I know for a fact that Jet players, because I felt it myself, Jet players, Giant players, when you're playing in MetLife Stadium, things haven't gone well for the last 5 or 6 years. The fans are expecting the worst. You can feel it. You can feel the agita. You can feel the disgust. You can feel the intensity of negativity that comes down from the fans. It does permeate into the team. Then all of a sudden the team becomes tight. And then next thing you know, there's a fumble or there's a broken down play. Guy goes up for a ball, tips off his hands. It's an intercept in return for a touchdown. And then the avalanche of emotion and momentum, kind of just take over the game. And that's why, Josh Allen, again, if he continues to play the way he's playing, the game should be close. Really, I mean, the same thing could be said for Lamar Jackson. I don't necessarily know that either one of these guys are going to turn the ball over. That's one thing that they did really well this year. They did not turn the ball over, consistently. They stayed away from all of that, and it's one of the reasons why they won as many games as they won. So which defense in this particular game is going to be able to stop the other team's quarterback and force turnovers? Because that ultimately will be, I think that will be the decision or the deciding factor. But I just think Baltimore is big. They are fast. I don't know if Zay Flowers is going to play for Baltimore. That is a huge loss for them.
Well, of course. I mean, that guy.
They haven't said anything about whether or not he's playing. I don't know how bad his knee injury is. He got hurt a couple weeks ago. He did not play last week against Pittsburgh. So if he's able to play, he's able to play a significant amount of snaps.
Practice again yesterday. I wasn't sure about that.
Right. So he may not play. I don't know, but that's a big loss for them. But as we have seen throughout the year, Baltimore does have numerous weapons, including a running back that has made a significant difference on this football team, and that, of course, is Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and there's a big talking point this week that surprises me, and I know that the national feel around Lamar Jackson is when he goes up against these tougher teams, these better quarterbacks, he can't get it done. But the talking about the cold with him, and this being the coldest game that he's played in, I mean, we're not talking about a guy who spent his entire career in Southern California or the Miami. I mean, he plays in Baltimore. I mean, and he's also been, to these other AFC cities that it's been freezing. So I don't think that's going to be a factor. I can't imagine that Lamar Jackson, with the season that he has had, is going to be affected by, negative wind chills in this game. And it's funny, they put out a clip of the AFC Hard Knocks. And Chris Berman of ESPN went to the practice. He was talking to John Harbaugh, and John Harbaugh was talking about how this year Lamar and the way he's throwing the ball, like the elements don't matter. Like he's throwing it in the cold, he's throwing it in the wind. He's just better than he's ever been. So that I took that. I could be swayed by anything these days.
Yes,
but
I'm sure.
I took that, and I'm like, you know what? I think he's going to play really well in this game, and the weather's not going to matter.
Well, there's one thing we all know, that Josh Allen is weatherproof. He'll run through anything. He'll run anytime. He'll take off anytime. But so will Lamar, and that's why Lamar is going to be the MVP of the NFL. People last night were asking whether or not this game is going to have any impact. No, it doesn't. Yeah. The votes are already in, and it's based on the regular season. And Lamar Jackson was your all-pro quarterback. So if he's your all-pro quarterback, he's going to be your MVP.
Yeah, I mean, and he beats him out in every single statistical category.
I mean, and it's not taking anything away from Josh Allen. He had a great season. And, it's just unfortunately for Josh that Lamar had a season for the ages, maybe the greatest single season any quarterback has ever had, when you combine the passing yards over 4,000 and the running yards over 900 yards. I mean, that's 5,000 yards of offense, plus all the touchdowns and the lack of turnovers. He had a remarkable season, and he's going to win his third MVP, and he deserves it.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to get what we got in the NBA, where Jokic was clearly the best player, and they didn't want to give him 3 in a row, so they went to Joel Embiid. Like, you can't. That's just the dumbest thing in the world. You give it to the player who's got who's supposed to be the MVP, and it should be Lamar Jackson. But that doesn't mean that Josh Allen can't play better than him in this football game.
No, I mean, if you were Josh Allen, that could be a little fuel for the fire for sure, but I don't think Josh is thinking that. I don't think Josh is thinking about the MVP. I just think they're just trying to figure out a way to beat each other. That's really what it comes down to here. And I think Lamar talked about that this week. Maybe when we're older, we'll laugh about it, kind of like me and my generation laugh about it.
Yeah.
But, I just, when you have these types of quarterbacks that are dual threat quarterbacks and can take off at any time, it's so difficult to play defense against them. Matt Milano is going to be standing out there, and he's going to try to be figuring out where the hell is Lamar going.
And he's a really good player, and he may have a bad game because he's going against the league's best right now.
Right, and that the league's best right now looks about as fast as he's ever had. That first half against Pittsburgh, man, he looked like he was shot out of a cannon. So. That was their home game. He knew he had to have a big game against Pittsburgh, and now comes another real test for him because he'll have to go on here, and most likely he'll, the winner of this game is going to obviously go to Kansas City, because I don't think any of us think that the Texans are going to beat Kansas City.
I don't, but I mean, so they had the last time that you saw the Kansas City Chiefs offense on the field intact was the last time that they played the Texans. And I believe there was a 23-16 game.
And that's the game that Tank Dell got hurt after scoring the touchdown,
right.
And C.J. Stroud went into a shell.
Absolutely.
An emotional shell.
And then didn't play well for 2 weeks after that as well. So that had sort of an impact on the game. The Kansas City Chiefs always find a way to win, but they don't cover spreads that are more than 6 points. So, I mean, it could be close, but I got to see somebody go in there and beat them again. Obviously, the Cincinnati Bengals, they have done it, but I got to see someone else do it.
I think the Bills or the Ravens can go in there and beat them.
Right, they could. I'm just saying I got to see somebody do it before I pick it to happen. And the Bengals, I last time the Bengals went in there, I was all in on them and thought they were going to do it again, and then they ended up losing the game, obviously.
Stupid penalty towards the end of the game.
Oh, it's just awful. But
yes.
But I was all, because once I see that happen, I'm like, that team is not intimidated. Joe Burrow is not intimidated going in there. They beat them once. They could do it again. So I got to see another one of those AFC teams go in there and do it before I pick it. And I'm certainly not going to pick the Houston Texans to go and beat them. But every single game, it feels like that the Kansas City Chiefs have played has been a very close game, and one that comes down to the fourth quarter and Patrick Mahomes being the best player.
So we got these 4 games. Which one is the most lopsided in your eyes? The Lions, Commanders?
Probably. It has to be, right? Just because the Eagles can get in a rut offensively at times. The Rams could probably, they could keep up, score. I mean, on the road, it's going to be tougher, but it would have the biggest potential for blowout has to be Commanders-Lions. And I don't know if my take on this guy, I'm trying to create a world in which the Commanders can go in there and win in my brain.
Is that what you were doing back in your office?
No.
I went back there and I looked at you and you had your eyes closed and you were sitting with your hands, your palms up. I'm like, what in the world are you doing? What were you doing? Were you trying to figure out, was that what you were doing at that point in time?
I think I was just doing a little stretching. I think that was really it.
That was stretching?
I was doing a little stretching. It was like, eyes closed.
That was stretching. That did not look like stretching to me. It looked like you were doing some sort of like
spiritual thing,
spiritual ritual, or I don't know what it was. I just didn't want to bother you. I was going to ask you a question, but I was like, I don't want to go anywhere near him. I didn't know what you were doing.
No, it just just a little bit of pre-show stretching. And not in that moment was I imagining a world in which the Commanders win.
Were you stretching like your fingers? You weren't stretching your legs. You weren't stretching your back.
I got in trouble when I wasn't doing any meditating. I got in trouble in school. It was like probably third grade, and I had heard the word meditating, and I got it confused with a different word.
Okay.
And I was sitting in my chair in school, and I had my eyes closed, and I had my hands out, sort of my fingers put together, and I was just being a little goofball in third grade, and the teacher goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm masturbating." And it was the wrong word. It was supposed to be meditating, is what I was supposed to say.
Well,
and I got confused.
So I caught you meditating today.
Maybe. But yeah, that's so anyway, I'm trying to imagine a world in which the Commanders beat the Lions, and it all comes down to this. Well, the Lions were the fun team last year, nothing to lose. Then this year, they are the ones. They are the number one seed. Everybody's been talking about them as the best team. They are the favorites. And just all the pressure on a team that's never been to a Super Bowl, and the Commanders and Jaden Daniels just being, whatever happens, happens. I'm good. I did what I needed to do this year.
It's kind of interesting. So we have these eight teams. 2 out of these 8 teams, maybe it's more. I do know that, obviously the Ravens just mauled the Bills back in week 4, 35-10. The Rams also beat the Bills late in the season out in L.A.
That was a crazy game.
And that was a crazy game. So it's like, which one of these Bills teams are we going to see on Sunday night? And it is going to be cold because it's a 6:30 start.
Yeah. I know you guys, you and Phil made your decision on the game last night and who was going to win. I still have not decided who I'm picking when we do our picks a little bit later. It's like I'm hearing so much of the same thing in this game over and over again.
So now you're going to talk yourself into going the other way.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's impossible. It's impossible to be right about these things all the time. Even the best in the world are less than 60% trying to figure these things out. So, yeah, be honest with you, I just want at least
one
2 of
good
these
game.
games.
Give me a couple good games. Normally, these divisional round games are competitive.
Yeah, but you got 2 spreads that are over a touchdown and one that is half a point under a full touchdown and 7 points. So, I mean, a touchdown and extra point.
I just wonder, is Kansas City going to finally come out and just blow somebody out?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if they're going to do it, maybe it's this week because it's the Texans, but that Texans defense is feisty, man.
2 edge rushers that are pretty damn good that, upset the game. Or as you say, because I heard you talking about this the other day, they're game wreckers.
Game wreckers.
Yes.
Game wrecker type guys.
Yeah, that's what I heard you say.
I mean, is this is this the game, the big upset that we're just not talking about? I don't think so. I mean, but they haven't. It's just they haven't played in so long, and that's going to be, if they end up losing the game, that's what everybody's going to be talking about. This is why you can't rest your starters. This is why you can't do this. This is why you ended up having a bye. You haven't played this team, and this team ends up playing well, and they had their starters in for a drive in Week 18, and they played a really good game in Wild Card Weekend. They got all the momentum. But I cannot pick the Texans to go in there and win.
Let me give you the scores for the Kansas City Chiefs in the last 6 out of 7 games. Because I don't want to count the last game because that was at Denver. They got shut out 38-0. Patrick Mahomes and those guys didn't play. So that doesn't matter. But if you go back to November 24th, Sunday, that was the Carolina Panther game. They won the game 30-27. Then they beat Vegas 19-17. Then they beat the Chargers 19-17. Then they beat the Browns 21-7. Then they beat Houston 27-19, and then they beat Pittsburgh 29-10. That was at Pittsburgh. So the point being is they don't normally go over 30 points. They don't normally do that. I mean, which is crazy to me.
They do it once all year, I think.
But twice, and both of those games were in overtime.
Wow.
So there was a game here. Let's see, right here, they beat Tampa Bay 30-24 in overtime, and then they beat that Carolina 30-27. Carolina was the other one.
Okay, yeah. I mean, they're a different team. It's basically defense keeps it close. Patrick Mahomes finds a way to win.
Wins the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
wins the fourth quarter all the time.
That's been their story the entire year, and probably going to be their story tomorrow as well.